Hello, movie nerds of the internet. Heavy Metal, 4K versus Blu-ray. Let's talk about the movie.
Six in the morning.
So if you're not familiar with the movie Heavy Metal, it is an animated film based on a British sci-fi comic book magazine called Heavy Metal. And we should probably start there because it'll explain a lot about the movie. So this is a copy of a Heavy Metal magazine that I have. I bought this when it came out in 1993, June 17th. So this is old. This is older than some of the people watching this video, potentially.
Well, you're terrifically old. But don't worry, not long now till you're at peace.
So this is Simon Bisley art. And there's the back, and then this actually folds open. So I always saw Heavy Metal as sort of an extension of the American underground comic book scene that often would do sci-fi stuff. And a lot of times not, but it was very adult-oriented. And so is this. And so when I flip through this, I have to do it off camera because I could find something that, immediately find something that I shouldn't show. So here's some Simon Bisley art that I can show you, I think. I don't know how YouTube views violence, but I'm pretty sure that I can't show any of the nudity that's in here. So, oh look, so this is, if you've seen the movie, this is a person from the movie, this is the Lochnar, and this is Den. And so basically, you know, you have sort of violent adult sci-fi, can't show you that, stuff in here. There's more Simon Bisley stuff. Simon Bisley is one of my favorite comic book artists, which is why I bought this. Can I show you this? I think I can no, not that one. This one? There's some more Simon Bisley art. Anyway, so that's sort of an introduction to the magazine. Now we can talk about the films. Or film. Well, I guess there is two films. The second of which I do not own. So here's an interesting note. This art looks very different, but it looks very much the same. And I don't know what I'm looking at, quite frankly, because, like, the bird thing looks identical, and then there's some differences in the Tarna character, and then the background is significantly different, but that part of the background is identical. So I don't understand that. That's a side note. So, back to the movie. There was a second movie that came out, I think, in the either late 90s or early 2000s. I'll put that information here. It actually had a Simon Bisley cover to it, I think. And I remember I had that on DVD, and it was not good. So I might still have it on DVD somewhere, but I've watched it once, and I'm like, hey, I'm never watching that again. So this was made by Ivan Reitman of Ghostbuster notoriety and other Ivan Reitman movies. And so it seems a little weird he would do an adult cartoon, but whatever. And so this is essentially a movie that is an anthology of sorts where It has sort of a through line with a girl, and her father brings home this orb from space, and then it kills her father, and then shows her all of these things. This orb being what they call the Lochnar, and it is the culmination of all the evil in the universe, blah, 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 blah. And you have bits and pieces of stuff from Heavy Metal magazine. I should say, Heavy Metal magazine, I think, started in 1977. And so this came out in 1981. So it's not a huge long time frame between the beginning of Heavy Metal magazine and this movie coming out. So it doesn't have a lot to pick from. But what it does do is it adapts stuff from Mobius, who was I think he's still alive. Is he still alive? I'll have to put that here too. I don't know. He was a French, I believe. I'll put that here too. A French comic book artist that maybe his best work is the Incal. That a lot of his stuff in the U.S. is hard to find, quite frankly. Probably the thing that's easiest to find is he did a run of Silver Surfer that I'm sure Marvel keeps in print. All of his other stuff is a bit more difficult to find. So there's two stories based on his work. There's the Den story that I showed you in this, that was by Richard Corbin, which just got reissued recently. I'll put a link in the description to that and these down below to Amazon if you're interested in any of this stuff. So yeah, the Den storyline was from Richard Corbin. And then there's a Captain Stern storyline from Bernie Wrightson. And Bernie Wrightson, if you don't know who he is, he's mostly known as a horror artist, particularly for Frankenstein. He did some really amazing work back in the day. He, I believe, has passed. He's an American, or was an American. And so those are sort of the main things you might want to know before you start watching this. And if you're not a comic book nerd, maybe none of that means anything to you. I haven't watched this in a while. I think I've owned this on every format. I had it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and then I upgraded to 4K. And I like the movie. I don't think I love the movie. It seems dated now, and it seems dated when I first saw it, probably back in the early 90s. Probably around the time I bought that other one off the comic book shelf. There's things I like, and then there's things I don't like. It sort of has a lot of gratuitous nudity, which I think, like, maybe back in 1981, I was like, ooh. And then now it's just kind of like, ugh. Why? Well, I don't know why it has to be so. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a prude in my old age. Maybe people love that. I just kind of don't care. And then, like, the violence and stuff like that. I'm sure all of that was sort of new to people with cartoons back then. Like, other than maybe, like, the Ralph Bakshi work of, like, Fritz the Cat, which was another underground comic adaptation that they did. Which, if that comes out on 4K, I'd buy that. Even though I don't love that either.
Change. I'm already changing. Look at me change.
I like Robert Crumb a lot, but I don't really like that movie. Anyway, what am I talking about?
6.5 hours later.
Yeah, so this just kind of seems dated. The music feels real dated. You would think with a movie called Heavy Metal, there would be heavy metal bands on it. And I know, like, back in 1981, there wasn't a whole lot of heavy metal to pick from. There's a Black Sabbath song, but it's like one of the later, like, I don't even know. Not a good one. Like, most of it is just sort of boring classic rock, and then there's, like, Devo on there for no reason. I guess there's a reason, because it's, like, futuristic, and I guess Devo sounded futuristic, and now it sounds old-fashioned. So, I mean, they couldn't have known that someone was going to be watching this 33 years, is that right? 33 years later and being like, oh, this doesn't seem as futuristic as you thought it was. That's my feelings on the movie. That's my introduction for you for Heavy Metal. Again, there was a movie after this. There was a version of the 4K that came with, I don't think it was a 4K, I think it was the Blu-ray of the Heavy Metal 2000 that it was all in one thing. Now that goes for like money, whereas you can get this for like $10 if you look hard enough. Like, I don't know why you would want to pay $100 to get the crappy movie that's not even good. So, I don't know, people make all kinds of interesting choices out there. So this has a new special feature on it where they talk to some people, like Kevin Smith. He's probably the most interesting person. The guy who played Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead. Who else is on there? Anyone else of note? I don't think so. So this is rated R, as you will notice, so don't show your kids this movie. That would be bad. This does include a digital code, which I already gave away. It does include the Blu-ray, so that's nice because the 4K doesn't have the special features on it. This has printing on the inside, which is nice. This does not. This doesn't have anything on the inside of the cover. No reversible art. I don't know what you would reverse it to. So let's get to what people care about, which would be the picture quality. The audio quality to this isn't great. All of the voice work sounds really like they recorded in a tin can for some reason. I don't think that's an issue with the transfer. I think for whatever reason, they just did a really poor job recording it to begin with. So don't expect, I mean, this has a 7.1 DTS soundtrack, but don't expect it to sound great. The picture quality is improved, and I wanted to say that it's not worth upgrading. Like, I sort of regretted, like when I first put this in after watching this, I'm like, oh, I kind of regret it. And then I noticed something really bad. Well, you notice it immediately, and it doesn't calm down at all, is the picture jitter in this is really bad. Like, at points, it kind of made me seasick and nauseous to look at how much the screen moved around. And for that reason alone, I would suggest getting the 4K if you really like this, because it's really bad. Like I said, it made me seasick to kind of watch it because of the jitter. And then there's also a lot of dirt in this, and then there's some streaks that aren't in this, and then the black levels are not where they should be on this. So, I mean, it's definitely a pretty notable difference in those terms, but in terms of picture quality in general, it's probably a small upgrade in picture quality. But all the other stuff, the cleaner print and the lack of the jitter that they stabilized it for the 4K release, or they just did a better job on the transfer. I think that considering how inexpensively you can get this, it makes sense. Even if you're like me and you're like, oh, I like the movie, I watch it every decade, I still think you might as well buy this. Because one day this won't exist, and you should have the best version of it, I suppose. And then, so there's extra features on this that aren't on this 4K disc, but again, they included the Blu-ray disc, so you're good. You have all of the same features. So I guess considering the price, considering the jitter, I definitely would recommend picking this up if you like this movie. If you don't like this movie, you're probably fine with the Blu-ray, or nothing, if you really don't like the movie at all. But let me know what you think. Comment down below and tell me if you like heavy metal. Do you think I'm being overly critical on all of the gratuitous nudity? Or am I a prude? I know I'm getting to be a prude in my old age. Like, I just don't need to see it. But let me know. Have a good day.